Welcome to Giants Training Camp Report presented by Citizens. A cloudy, overcast, and slightly drizzly day out here at Giants practice for the first day in full pads. I'm Madelyn Burke here alongside Giants Super Bowl champion Shaun O'Hara. Shaun, guys like you, offensive linemen, first day in pads. This is perfect weather for it, isn't it?
Absolutely. I love that you sprinkled in drizzle right there. This is an O-lineman's dream right now. Sweat factor is minimal. It's borderline 0 right now with 72 degrees, nice and overcast. Great day to put on the full pads and to get down and dirty and run the football.
Down and dirty is right, too, because earlier I was walking across this field and it was a little squishy. There was a little give, a little spongy out there. How does that affect the way these guys are practicing out here?
Yeah, well, good question. I think, number one, anytime you go throw the full pads on, you got to make sure your cleats are ready to rock and roll. You don't want anybody on the ground. You don't want anybody slipping or falling. But it definitely, as an offensive lineman, creates an advantage because the defensive linemen don't have the same traction. They can't jump out of their stance like they have starting blocks like they're a sprinter. So that definitely helps. They're a little bit more cautious, a little bit more gauged. But I'll say this, Big Rob Davis, who handles the field out here, he does a great job with the drainage. So it won't be too slippery for very long.
Oh, yeah, this is his baby back here. We see him taking good care of this field. Earlier today, we heard from head coach Brian Dable. He talked about what we can expect in practice. First day, full pads. He said they're going to be focused more on the run game, of course, because that's kind of where the meat is of this full padded practice. What can we expect to see out here on this field today?
Yeah, Dave's, I talked to him a little bit before practice got started. He said, you would love today. It's going to be 80% a run game. So for the receivers, they may be yawning over there on the sideline, but you're going to find out a lot about your team the first day you put on pads, and they have been so emphasized on the red zone, the passing game, these first few practices in training camp, and rightfully so because they're not in pads. So now this is the time when you find out, all right, who's got power in the hips, the combo blocks. Can you control the line of scrimmage offensively? Can you move them? And defensively, an area that they need to improve on from last season, they've got to do a better job against the run. So now you find out about the big boys right there. As we take a look at the offensive line right there, Andrew Thomas, Shane Lemieux, Jamil Douglas in at center, Glowinski at right guard, Evan Neal. And actually, Madelyn, they're starting off. I know it's a big run game emphasis today in practice. They're starting off here with one-on-one pass rush. And word on the street is they're sprinkling in a little bit of run action too, so it gives the defensive lineman something else to think about. But, this is kind of what everybody's wanting to see, right? Evan Neal, his first rep, Kayvon Thibodeau, looked like we just saw. I think that was Thibodeau against Andrew Thomas, that first rep at left tackle. There's Shane Lemieux coming back off his knee injury.
And as we're looking in at practice, too, it's important to remember that the center position, John Feliciano, who's been the starting center, he's been out since about Thursday. So we've been seeing a few other guys getting some reps at that center position. As we take a look at the defense in white, the offense in blue, Leonard Williams is very excited.
Leonard right there just showed some power. He got up underneath Mark Glowinski, who was a strong guy. All right, this is Josh Azudu, the left guard right here, their third-round pick out of North Carolina. All right, again, that's Tony Sperano Jr. right there playing quarterback. He's doing a great job with the hard count. That's twice now he's got somebody. There you see Josh. Look at Josh. Look at the lobster claws right there, Madelyn. Lobster claws right there on the inside on the sternum.
Good hand placement. Hand placement, point of emphasis for this offensive line. And for fans at home who might not be as familiar with the importance of that, talk about why that's such an important element.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the inside hands always win. And if you can get your hands inside on that chest right there and just lock them in, the defensive linemen are trying to chop your hands down. But if you can get a good grab, see Ben Brederson right there with a nice rep. He had his left hand inside, really nice and tight. You can see he was trying to work that right hand in there. There you see Bobby Johnson in the gray sweatshirt. That's the offensive
Bobby
line coach.
Johnson.
Yeah, he's
word on the street.
Definitely
Suspect.
You could see already how involved he is with Tony Sperano Jr. with this offensive line. After each rep, something that's a little different wrinkle, each offensive lineman is running back to their spot. So that's a little different wrinkle in this drill. You normally don't see that, but that one right there was almost looked like a run play as the tackle fired out. So they are sprinkling in some run action. There's Kayvon Thibodeau right there. So this is pass pro, but they're also mixing in some play action, which is what you saw on that rep against Kayvon Thibodeau, and now you're seeing it here. A jump set, a short set is what you use in a play action pass because you're trying to sell the run initially before you turn it into a pass pro. There's a nice rep right there by Quincy Roche. All right, here's Andrew Thomas, Kayvon Thibodeau. You've asked for it. Here it is. You could see right there, Kayvon Thibodeau looked like he slipped a little bit. He was trying to use a little, they call it like a Euro step move where you feint inside, and then try to use your speed to the outside. And Andrew Thomas did a good job. There we see Leonard Williams with a nice pull through on Shane Lemieux. Leonard Williams, I tell you, we saw him put his hands inside on Mark Lewinsky early on, and then right there he did a little push-pull on Shane Lemieux. Dexter Lawrence just walks Jamil Douglas back into the quarterback right there. So that was pure power. You don't do that when you don't have pads on, but that's why this drill is so important for O-linemen. You've got to find a way to anchor. When a guy's bull rushing you like that, you got to get off the roller skates.
Well, and in the trenches, too, things get physical. I mean, even without pads on, we saw the first day of training camp, Leonard Williams' jersey got ripped because guys, it's instinctive in those positions to kind of grab and hold in quite a bit. But when you have the first day in pads, you want to be able to, keep it safe, but also be physical. How do you balance that as a lineman?
Yeah, and there's O'Shane Ximenez against Evan Neal, and you could see Ximenez was jumping the count right there. Looked like they got him the first time, but that speed, that first step right there is something Evan Neal's going to have to really adjust to right there. He's got to do a better job with his angle and his kick slide right there. To your point, that aspect of this is exactly why you've got to practice with pads on, because it's totally different. We just saw those one-on-ones right there. And now for anybody watching at home right there, looking at that and saying, oh my gosh, so-and-so got beat. Look, this does not indicate the type of player you are at any given point. This is all about growth, and this is the very first pass rush for a lot of these young guys. But Madelyn, in one-on-one pass rush, we always felt like if you can win 50% of your battles in that drill, which is the most disadvantageous drill you can have as an O-lineman, they know that there's no real run game. They're teeing off on you. The only friend you have, like I said, is the snap count. If you can win half your battles there, it makes Sundays a lot easier. So that's why those drills are so important. If you can hold your own and you can go 50% win on that, then you're going to do pretty good on Sundays. And
on Sundays, too, it's a lot about not just executing, but also knowing your assignment, knowing your man, knowing what the defense is showing you and who you are responsible for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where kind of you go next level thinking. So when you do these drills individually, then you carry it over into the team period. They will do this sometimes with half line drills, and that's when you work the twist games. Because look, when you're in one-on-ones, you don't have to worry about anybody else. You're focused on that one defender and his footwork and what he's doing. But as you sprinkle in defensive fronts, stunts, now all of a sudden it becomes a little more challenging. And now we see them get together here for what looks like the first period of team inside run. This is the first inside run drill of the 2022 season for the New York Giants.
It's a big day. It's a big day. Big moment, ladies and gentlemen. As we're taking a look at this, is the ones right here. We got Kenny Golladay, Wan'Dale Robinson, the rookie second-round wide receiver, number 17. He's been getting a lot of reps and has been turning some heads.
And it looked like Kadarius Toney in there, too. So first inside run, and they're going three wides. Different personnel.
It was interesting, too. Brian Dable said earlier today, he spoke with Kadarius Toney this morning and said, hey, what do you think about me adding a little bit more positional flexibility to you, or would that slow you down? And he emphasizes the importance of communicating with the players and saying, hey, are you okay with this, or do you want to kind of stay where you are? And KT said, absolutely, give me more responsibility. They gave him the day off on Saturday to kind of temper him a little bit. He's been making some plays early in training camp. But how important is that, too, communicating with the coach and him saying, hey, I want to give you this, but I want you to be honest with me about what you can and can't handle on your plate?
It speaks volumes of the relationship that Brian Dable has with the players and how he continues to grow that and to groom that. I think as players, when a coach talks to you like that and asks you your input on it, I think it makes you feel like you have ownership now of not just your role, but of with the team. And you appreciate that. As we see, looks like, is that Kadarius Toney right there with a nice little...
That would be 89.
Nice little quick pass, get him out in space. So this is team run and play action pass, not just run. As you can see, the first two plays are pass plays. But I think for Kadarius Toney, look, I think it's also shows his willingness to coach, put more on my plate. I can handle it, and the more touches that you can find a way to get me, the better. So now we see Tyrod Taylor taking over offensively with the second group.
Yeah, and Tyrod Taylor, too, just the importance of having a backup of his caliber as well. Just with, of course, in the NFL, there's always a risk of injury, of the quarterback going down, and to have a backup of the caliber of Tyrod Taylor is really going to be a good insurance plan for this team, if nothing else.
I think he's a great asset to this offense, to this team. The veteran knowledge, like you mentioned, the command, the presence. not just in the huddle as we see him getting out of calling the play right here, but knowing how to change things at the line of scrimmage if things don't look right. I think he also fits into this offense extremely well with his athleticism, his ability to throw on the move. So I think it's definitely a great step for the Giants offensively as we see the running back kind of slip right there. We've seen a couple of guys go down, so that moisture that we were talking about is definitely a factor in practice today. But
we've got Matt Breida here in the backfield. He, of course, coming over from Buffalo, along with quite a few people on this Giants roster and coaching staff. And this looks like Richie James. Richie James has been making some plays in training camp as well. He came over from the San Francisco 49ers. He had a knee injury last season, but he's been making some athletic plays. He's got a little quick twitch. He's able to shake a defender. He's, been putting some good tape out there in training camp so far.
Yeah, it's good to see the Giants get establish that depth. That's one of the areas that they've really struggled with the last couple of years is depth. When somebody has to miss time, whether it was due to COVID or due to injury over the last couple of years, that's where you could see a big drop off. So now it looks like Davis Webb is in at quarterback with the third offensive group. And there you see a nice run, nice little burst right there. It looked like a little zone read by Davis Webb.
And that's Gary Brightwell with the carry.
Brightwell looking good right there. It looked like he had a nice little jump cut there back to the left side of the offense. Good job up front. That's Max Garcia in there at center. He's played guard. He's played center. He was in Arizona. I think most recently last year playing guard.
And that's another point of emphasis as well, is that positional flexibility on the offensive line. And, people talk about, going from the left side to the right side, for example, as being a boxer who hits with your left hand and then your right hand, or a left jab and a right hand. How would you describe the difference of playing, or switching between those positions on the offensive line?
Yeah, I think anytime you can play center and guard or guard and tackle, it makes you better at those positions, because once you go to another position, you realize what the challenges are at that position. So for me, playing guard helped me be a better center, because I knew, okay, here's the blocks that I struggled with at guard. So now I know how to help, when to help, and who to help on any given play. Center, obviously, everything is a lot quicker, and you've got the added responsibility of snapping the football. But, once you can make that automatic and not have to think about it, almost like breathing, make it an involuntary action, then you can really excel in your game. But everything happens quicker. The defense is right on you, so you've got to be really quick with your hands and your footwork. Guard, you've got to be a little more powerful. You've got a little more time, but you've also got a lot more going on. You've got to deal with stunts, with linebackers coming on blitzes, so you got to have a lot more awareness. But this drill, I know we're focusing on the offense here, Madelyn, but it's really good for the defense too. I mentioned the zone reads. That's a big part of the NFL game today. And as a defensive end, you've got to be able to see that. Linebackers too, you've got to be able to see and locate who has the football. As now we see Shane Lemieux, it looks like, is now in its center. So we have seen this. We saw him do that last year as Saquon Barkley gets a carry. But Shane Lemieux now moving in at center to take some reps, which allows Josh Azudu, you can see him right there at 75 now, their third-round pick from North Carolina, to get some reps with the one. So this is all about that versatility you were talking about, position, flexibility. And certainly for the Giants, with John Feliciano being out still, it's given them an opportunity to make sure that, hey, we've got somebody else that can play center in a pinch.
Well, and speaking of opportunity as well, Azeez Ojulari still on that non-football injury list with that hamstring. So that side opposite Kayvon Thibodeau is getting a lot of rotation as well. A few other guys getting opportunity in there. Ojulari last year, rookie sack record. So when he does come back and is healthy, that's going to be a welcomed return for this Giants defense, which we've already seen, early on in camp, defense usually has the upper hand, correct?
Yeah, no doubt for Ojulari, obviously getting healthy first and foremost, but he definitely brings another element to this defense. And, it'll be interesting to see how they use him in this defense with Kayvon Thibodeau. Who's the Sam? Who's the Will? Do they both pull multiple positions there? We see a nice play there defensively. There's Xavier McKinney jumping in there.
And Xavier McKinney wearing the green dot this year. And, I've talked to a few guys. Xavier talked about this at his media availability at the podium the other day and said, this is new for him. He did do that in college at Alabama, he wore the comms and was able to do that. This is his first time in the pros. Usually it's the linebacker that has that responsibility.
Yeah.
And he talked about, going into the huddle with a bunch of grown men, you got to say it from your chest a little bit more. But even Leonard Williams was talking about the difference in that experience. He said, usually you get the play call from the linebacker. So when he goes into the huddle, it's instinct to look at Blake or the backer in that position. But it's now, oh yeah, Xavier's the guy. Xavier's got the call. And even McKinney said, hey, coming in from the safety position, I got to run 30 yards to get that play to the huddle.
Yeah, it's definitely different because you can be in depth. And if you're a safety and you've got to make the call, you've got to make sure that they hear you up front too. So you got to have to relay it. But we just saw a nice play right there by the Giants defense, ripping the ball out. Daniel Bellinger with a nice catch. We saw Carter Coughlin make a nice stop right there too. So defensively, the green dot usually is the Mike linebacker. So with Blake Martinez being out this spring, still coming back from that ACL injury, I think it was a great opportunity for Xavier McKinney to step up in that leadership role. Now, when you think about Xavier McKinney, when he played at Alabama, look, they played a very complex defense, and he was all over the field. So mentally, he is absolutely ready and willing and able to control that aspect of it. To add that, I think, not just from a communication standpoint, but from a leadership standpoint, when everybody's looking to you to get the front lined up and make sure you relay the coverage, that adds to your leadership ability. And I think for Xavier, that's something that he has definitely embraced. We've seen him flying around already. And I think, there's a lot of question marks in this Giants secondary this season. We've got a lot of new faces that really have to establish themselves. Xavier McKinney, I think, has already done that.
Well, and going into, Wink Martindale's defense as well, it almost makes sense having the safety because of the way that the safeties and the defensive backs are used as opposed to linebackers. I mean, Wink has said from the start, he wants the defense to set the tone, not to react to what the offense is doing, but to rather make the offense react to what the defense is doing and be the initiators in that space.
Yeah, that's defensive coordinator speak right there. They want to control the action. And as an offense, we're trying to do the same thing, too. We don't want to let the defense dictate what we're doing. But for Xavier McKinney, that aspect of it, look, I know we're calling him a deep safety. He does play inside the box as a linebacker on nickel sometimes. So, for him, I think that's going to be a seamless transition.
The first padded practice of the 2022 Giants training camp, and we've been seeing some competition out there already, Shaun.
Yeah, the much anticipated padded practice now when, you could kind of really digest and figure out who can win in the trenches. Everybody always talks about and uses the cliche, it's a game of trenches. Well, this is where you start. And, there was an old deodorant commercial where they talked about you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So this is the first impression here for a lot of these Giants players on both sides of the ball, as we see Tyrod Taylor under center right now. This is a team period here where it's a mixture of run plays, play action pass plays, and blitzes. And, look, the run game, obviously, for the Giants has been something that they've needed to improve on. Last year, one of the things that always jumped out at me when I would watch film was how many unblocked defenders there were and how many times Saquon Barkley was taking a handoff and had to make a guy miss immediately in the backfield. So certainly that's something that they want to clean up. And then defensively, I know Wink Martindale talks about pressure on the quarterback and, blitz pickups and coverages and all that stuff. But first and foremost, every defensive coordinator will tell you we got to stop the run. That makes third down a heck of a lot easier. And that's a point of emphasis.
Well, and you brought up Saquon Barkley as well, and he has been healthy and excited and eager in this Giants training camp. And he said the other day, you know what, I just want to prove to the Giants that the player that they drafted, number 2 overall, is still there. Of course,
give me a hungry player all day long, Madelyn. A player that's, on a contract year or has something to prove. I think that's always when players are the most dangerous and you're going to get their best effort. So no doubt it's a big year for Saquon Barkley. I know he's got some extra motivation given what's transpired, but he's also healthy. I think this is, last year coming into training camp off the ACL, there were a lot of unknowns, for him personally. And I think also you spend so much time when you're coming off of an injury like he had with the rehab, with just trying to get back to yourself. And sometimes the conditioning, you lose out on other things because you're so focused on the rehab. So for him to have the whole offseason, to have a chance to really focus on conditioning, getting back to who he was before the injury, I know that's a big part as we see Davis Webb here with his second tour with the Giants.
Yeah.
It's like he's taking snaps from Max Garcia.
And to add one more point to that, too, I mean, Saquon talked about just the amount of movement in this offense. And he said he went back and looked at his college tape because that's the last time he moved around this much. And I asked him what he saw in that. And he said, I was such a more confident player at that time, because before you go through an injury like that, you feel more comfortable in your body. But he said he's finally starting to feel that comfort and that confidence in his body, trusting his body again. And you can see it from what we've seen so far from him in camp out here.
Yeah, I think confidence in yourself and then confidence in the guys up front, too, that they're going to block.
Right.
And that, that linebacker is going to be picked up on the combo block, that the tight end is going to block the backside guy, and you can press the hole. So, you got to have confidence that your receiver is going to come in and dig out the safety. As we see a nice little cutback right there.
Another run with Antonio Williams.
Yeah, Antonio Williams with a nice cutback right there. These type of drills right here, I know we're talking about the offense and the impact for that, but defensively, we're seeing now with the pads, when you're not wearing pads in practice defensively, you're coming up, you're tagging off. It's kind of like flag football. You're touching the hip, you're touching the back. But now it's all right. You're wearing pads. You better bring your feet. One of the sayings that we have in football is same foot, same shoulder. Bring your feet with you when you thud. This is thud tempo. They're not tackling. This is not live tackling. This is thud tempo. As we see the first offense up, there's Saquon in the backfield, Shane Lemieux in again at center, Josh Ezeudu at left guard, Andrew Thomas at left tackle. There's Dexter Lawrence right there. We see there's Ezeudu on a pull, nice little spin move right there. Saquon Barkley taking care of the football. Xavier McKinney coming up there to try to punch the ball out.
Yep.
You mentioned the confidence for Saquon, and this offense, you could see a lot of these shotgun runs, it's a different entry point for the running backs because you're alongside the quarterback. So it changes your entry hole into the line of scrimmage.
All right, that's a wrap for us today. Giants practice is continuing, but we are signing off here at Giants Training Camp Report presented by Citizens. For Shaun O'Hara and Madelyn Burke, thanks for hanging out with us today. We'll see you next time.